Here's the line. Here's the line. There's the line. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Yeah, that's right. Ooh-wee. Ah, yeah. Oh. So, how you all doing? It's about 3 o'clock on the dot right here in the neighborhood. I walked. Hey guys, thanks for the thumbs up. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your griot. I tell you stories. You scratch your head. It's the 27th, I think. It's Tuesday. Friday was Christmas, and that was quite nice. So some young rich folk rented the house about 2 miles from me, and they couldn't get their heat started. So I said, "Oh, no problem." So I kind of gathered some food. I said, "You got any food?" They said, "Oh yeah, we have only the best." And all they had was like 80 pounds of organic, uh, pasta, and 40 gallons of organic olive oil, and they had about 70 tons of toilet paper. I don't know what it is with toilet paper. I really don't. Anyway, and so I got in their vehicle, and they had a $60,000 Ford F-250. That sucker was like a rocket ship. It had every kind of electronic gizmo. The whole front was like a glass screen, and it was a pickup truck. And it had no weight in the back. And I looked at their tires, and it was kind of they're bald. I said, "You got any chains?" And they said, "Chains? You mean loose change?" I said, "No, chains, to put on your tires." And they said, "I don't know." And then we drove up the road to their house, and about a mile from me, a tree had fallen down on the road. But it was just enough space for them to squeak by, and we kind of tore off some limbs and dragged the big part of the tree. Because the night before they showed up, the wind was wicked. I think we had a minor tornado because it ripped up, twisted the tops off of the pine trees, which are the tallest, and threw them all over the place. And they had a really funky kind of fungus growing on them. And they've been spraying. Ooh, have they been spraying? So anyway, we made it to a place. I put it around with the boiler and got it going, and found some wood for the stove. They had like 5 boxes of like rolled up. All you do is put a light to the end of the log, and it goes, which is great to start the fire. Put 3 of those, and then a couple logs on top of that. That's great. So that's what we kind of did. And I had a salmon, and I had a bag of potatoes and onions, and a few other goodies, and some poppin' rolls that somebody gave me. Most of the food I had was food that people gave me. So I cooked them a big pasta meal first, because since they had 8 million things of pasta, and I had some semi-fresh vegetables, and a couple of jars of ragu, and some tomatoes. And so I made a nice sauce, and then we had the pasta, and I had a like government thing of frozen pork, chopped up pork that made sausage, and so I had about 10 pounds of that, and I kind of made meatballs and fried them up. I had a big frying pan, so I fried them up. And I had a couple of rolls a very yeasty French bread, meaning they kind of cooked it, but then stopped, so you could cook the rest of it. And so I made garlic. They had like 25 jars of garlic, and so I made really nice garlic bread. The oven couldn't figure that out. It was digital gas oven, which like was an oxymoron. So made that dinner, and they had a number of dozens of eggs. So I made a nice omelet the next day with the leftovers of the vegetable tomato sauce, and I chopped up a bunch of potatoes, boiled them down, then put them in the big frying pan and fried them up, and add all kinds of spices and yummies. And so we had a big omelet, kind of tomato Italian omelet with browned potatoes, canned potatoes. And then for lunch, Christmas Eve lunch, I made a nice, took those meatballs and made a nice hero, again, from the tomato sauce. And then Christmas Eve, I had a ham. I had about 10-pound ham, a hank. And I kind of sliced that up and made a ham potato stew, but put big chunks of ham, not little. Then I added. They had a couple bags of frozen vegetables like turnips and things, and I threw that into cut up the last of the onions, and so I had a big stew and a big ham. And I cut the ham up to fit in the pot to boil down. And then I kind of put big slabs of the ham, like steaks, into the big frying pan and heated that up and browned them up and made a nice gravy and a I found some, strange sauces in their collection of seasonings, and so I kind of made a apricot. I had some can of pineapple, and I kind of made a nice pineapple-y, apricot-y, hot sauce for the ham and the potatoes, and that was our New Year's or Christmas Eve dinner. And then again, I made they had some pancakes, so I made pancakes for Christmas Day and a big omelet and potatoes. And then Christmas evening, more vegetables and a whatchamacallit? A salmon. I cooked up the salmon. And so I stayed the night before Christmas Eve, Christmas Day Eve, and Sunday. They were supposed to have more friends drive up from down south, and but we had about 6 inches of snow on Christmas Eve evening. Started around it started that day they got up here. So the day before Christmas Eve, it snowed. And then it snowed through Christmas Eve and stopped around 11, 12 on Christmas morning. And then Christmas morning when I got up, and they had a nice bed, and I slept in a nice bed, took a shower the first time in a year. Well, a little less than a year. The last shower I took was in February. So almost a year, right? 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 10 months, 11 months, something like that. And so we had a really nice Christmas. And I told them stories. And I left you one Christmas tiding, because they have Wi-Fi. And the electricity only went out 5 times, but for very intermittent amounts. And it was mostly that evening before Christmas Eve, and that went out for a few hours. And luckily we had been here for a few hours, and I had started cooking and gotten everything running and got the house heated up and got the fireplace going. And so then the lights went out, and they had lots of candles. I mean, boxes and boxes of those devotee candles. So we lit them up. And what else? And I had a couple flashlights in my pocket, so that's what I gave him for Christmas. And so the power came back on around 10 o'clock, and that was great. And we had dinner, and we had dinner by candlelight. And I told I did the Christmas Carol. I had read the Christmas Carol, I don't know, hundreds of times. And before they showed up, I had no idea they were showing up. The only reason I knew they showed up is that the tree came down the road. And I was actually kind of, out and about on my front lawn, looking up at the sky, saying, because I had no idea, I haven't been off the site since last Monday, right? And here it is Tuesday, right? Today's Tuesday? Yeah. So they showed up on Wednesday, right? And we had to storm Tuesday night. So right now the sky is blue. They're not spraying. The sun is brighter than, look how bright that sun is. And I feel like Neil Armstrong on the moon, because he had the same kind of Terminator, like really bright and really dark. And so here it is. So I did Christmas Carol for them. And these guys are right at the place of, they're both around 26, 27. One guy, he comes from a really good family, really, well-to-do, had money, went to prep school, went to good college, big connections with family, got a really good job. He's smart. He did a really good job, like between 22 and 26. And he has learned a certain, thing where he can make a lot of money. And he is kind of going up the ladder. So he got to a certain place in this one corporation. He quit that job. I mean, he got a good name of what he did. And so somebody offered him a job in another corporation, paying him like 30% more than he was. And he was just going to stay there, right? But he was making a lot of money there. So he got 30% here going to this guy, and spent like, I don't know, less than a year there. And he had a lot of responsibility. And he, got, again, within the community, what he's working on, he got well known. And so somebody else offered him another job now way up here. And that job he can do from the internet. So he was thinking, the world is going to end. So he rented this place. Enough money to be able to rent a house in the big city. And this joint, and he's 26. And he's got a $60,000 truck, which he nearly put down into a crevasse, because his girlfriend wanted him to come to Virginia Beach and meet her parents. And he's kind of not blown them off, but both twice kind of, had a moment where he couldn't make it, right? And so this was a third strike. So he was trying to get out of here yesterday. And Sunday. And I, around 7 in the morning, I woke up and there was still about that much snow on the road, right? And someone had driven past me, the house past me, where it's the steepest before it gets on to the logging road. And the logging road is really wide, because that's logging roads. And so it still had a lot of snow on it, so you could get out. So, but the steepest, I don't know, 60, no, maybe 200, 300 feet of my dirt road, which is about 3 miles long, was, kind of packed down. So it had turned to ice because it was cold. And so I started shoveling out the road from my place up towards that, about 2/10 of a mile. And and I had some salt, and so I cleared from my road up to where it starts to get steep, and where the other rich people house is. And so, which is about a mile from me. So one's, see, mile either way. So anyway, um, he he should have left around 12, but I have no idea why he didn't. But I was, clearing my paths out because the snow was very rakeable, hadn't turned to ice. And so I kind of first raked all of my paths out so I don't kill myself. And then I raked out to the road. And then I started raking. I raked about, I don't know, 100 yards towards him. And then going up towards where it gets real steep. And so I started raking that out, right? And I got it, I probably did 0.2 of a mile of that. And that spot and the sun was hitting it, right? So it was melting. And the place where the car had gone over and packed it down and made it ice, the sun was loosening it up. That sun is awful strong. And so I kind of raked the road out for 0.2 of a mile. And then I felt like, okay, that's about all I can do. And I went back and I got in my box and drank some tea and fell asleep and woke about an hour and a half later and said, oh, it's about 2:30, 3 o'clock. I hope they're gone. So I started to walk up towards their house, which is where I am now. And they were just heading down the road. They were heading towards me. And they were like already an hour and a half, 2 hours late, right? So I just stayed, bid them goodwill. I said, I cleaned the road up to there. And then I got really kind of tired, tuckered out and can't breathe. Hey, Bob. Yep. Dang, you're making me hungry. Well, I'm a great cook. And both these guys, one guy was a Navy boy, and he was going to be a SEAL, but he didn't quite make it, so he became a aircraft engineer. And now he's out of the Navy, and he's got a aircraft. He's doing the same job he had in the Navy, but now he's doing it for a private corporation. And instead of getting whatever they get in the Navy, he's now getting $1,500, $2,500 a week. So he's making some serious bucks. And he had a really kind of mad dog little spaniel that wanted to bite everyone. But once I got his confidence, because I kept giving him meatballs, by about the third meatball, that dog and I were best friends. And so from that point on, he was really good. I taught him, this means sit, this means lie down, this means stop, this means come. Right? And I gave him the words that went along with it. And he was very obedient to me. And he is the little dog is very protective, but scared. What is, when his master goes away to work, he gets totally freaked out that the master ain't coming back. So the master has to keep him on a leash all the time. So when I went out to clean the steps, which is something, these guys are 26. Yeah. And, I'm 70. I shouldn't be cleaning the steps. But I was out there at least starting it so they get the idea what they should do. And if they weren't going to do it, at least I wanted to, get it so I could, get back home without dying. Anyway, so the dog went out the door with me. Those guys were still, out. And because I wake up with the sun. And once the sun rose high enough to hit the steps out of here, I started, and the snow was still kind of dusty. So I could brush it. They had a nice broom, and I was just brooming it off. No big deal. Brooming is not a big deal. It's when it turns to ice, and then you have to pickaxe it, off. That's when it's a drag. So I, the dog ran out, and I still had a few meatballs in my pocket. So I whistled. He turned around. I held up the meatball like, yo. And he turned right around and came over, and we went through, sit, lie down, stop, meatball, right? So he was running circles around me, and I break off a little bit of the next meatball and give it to him. And so, stop, sit, lie down, right? So we did that for about half an hour while I brushed everything off. And again, he became more acclimated to the meatballs and me giving him simple orders like come, sit, stop. So anyway, we had a great time in the snow, and I kind of kept dusting him off with snow, because I think this is the first time that dog ever saw snow. He was rolling around in it and jumping when there were big kind of piles of it that he was kind of flying through, and he was just having a great old time. And every time I said, yo, and a couple of times he kind of got away, went down into the woods, and I said, up. And that's, because he was down and he came up. So that half an hour of meatballs and me dusting off the steps and me giving him insights on what commands are and how good that could be. And he liked that. And so we went, back in the house, and I made breakfast, and everybody was good. And I wanted to get some salt for the steps, because I knew my dusting off was okay, but it was gonna freeze up. There were already chunks where the Navy guy had run up and down the steps a few times, and those were gonna be, ice baby. So I wanted to get a big bag of ice that I had, and a few other food supplements for Christmas dinner. And I had that French bread. I wanted to make more of that garlic bread. And I had apple pie, a German apple pie with, and it's been really cold, so I don't have a refrigerator. But when it's 20 degrees outside, you don't need a refrigerator. I just put it in one of my boxes so the animals don't get at it. And so I wanted to get the pie, and I had some nice cheap whiskey. That's another good thing to have on Christmas. And also I had eggnog. So I want to make eggnog whiskey and coffee eggnog whiskey and coffee eggnog. And anyway, you get the picture. And I had some oatmeal. So, and I had half a what do you call that? Coconut cream pie. Food Line makes great pies for $3, really. So I had this untouched German apple pie, and I have great crust, and a whatchamacallit, the coconut cream pie. So I had half of that. So I brought it back, and again, I made early in the morning. I had made before we went up, after they woke up, and I had already come in with the dog. I had made pancakes and eggs and omelet. And so I wanted to get this food and a bag of salt to salt off everything so I wouldn't die, and they wouldn't die either. And then they so we had that meal, and we went out again, and the dog was on the leash. The guy really straining, and bingo, broke the leash, and the dog took off. And the guy was freaking out, come back. And I said, just hold on. And I said, yo, and the dog stopped. And I said, up. And the dog turned around, came right back, and I had the last meatball. I broke it in half, gave it to him. I said, heel. And so he walked right by my side. Now, this guy, the Navy guy, has had that dog, maybe 5-6 months. And it's pretty much an axiom that a man's dog is a reflection of him and his life. So the dog just, terriers got so much energy. And so they just want to know what the story is and give him the 411 and give him the command, right? So, I mean, when we were in the house, the dog was really great. I mean, at first, before I started giving him meatballs, he was growling at me and snapping at me and barking at me, and his owner couldn't get him to stop. It was the meatballs. By the second meatball, that dog loved me. And then the dog kind of relaxed. And the first night I was there, I told them stories and mostly listen to theirs, especially the Navy guy. And the lesson I tried to impart on the Navy guy is because he wanted to be perfect, and no one can be perfect. Everyone can be as good as they can be if they intent is in the right thing. And I kept talking about intent and what you could do with intent, and so both of them got it. And the Navy guy was telling me about, he's been working now. He's the money's amazing, and the guys I work with are pretty cool. And I said, so, that's the most important thing. Do you like working with them? He goes, well, they're a lot older than I am, and they know everything. And I don't like being told what to do. I said, yeah, but how long have they been working on aircraft in the Navy? And they said, about 30 years. And now they've been, privately contracted for about 10 years. So, they got 40 years on this. This guy's got all of 2 years, So I said, when you go back to those guys, why don't you say, listen, I really want to say I'm sorry about being gruff. And, I'm a young pinhead. I don't know anything. And I really want to learn from you guys before you take off, because they're at an age they'll retire relatively soon. And he'll be left there. There's 2 other people, but he has got the most drive. He's a very smart guy. I mean, he wouldn't have been a SEAL guy if he wasn't really smart. But he's not, 6'2" and weighs 210. He's about, 5'9", 10, and weighs 175. And he is muscle like you cannot believe. I mean, this guy is like... And so anyway, we had a really great time. And by, the next day, by Christmas Eve day, when it was really snowing and I was just cooking and telling stories, the dogs, the 2 guys, everyone got relaxed and was having a great time, and they brought their own hooch and they drank that. Now, I got diabetes. I really can't, a little bit of hooch, not big bottles. But I had a nice bottle that somebody gave me 3 years ago of $11 1 liter whiskey. That whiskey is good as the $50 bottle, right? So anyway, Christmas Day when it was unbelievably sunny, as sunny as this is, Christmas Day was that, and it just finished snowing. 3 a.m. So when we walked down to my little place to get Christmas dinner stuff, salt and everything else, it was unbelievably beautiful. And the powers that be keep putting apps on my phone to the point that it kills the battery almost as soon as I turn it on, right? So, and these guys are really... understand that stuff. And I said, hey, this is a problem. Oh, yeah, we'll get around to it. And they never got. So my phone still doesn't really work. And so anyway, they left Sunday, right? And and now the road was all ice, and they should have left right at when the sun was at its peak on that road, which was around noon. And Saturday, the day after Christmas, the guy says, I have all these friends coming to visit, and I don't think they're really a lot richer than I am, and they're kind of I don't know if a guy like you could... I've told them all about you and said what a great guy, and that all this stuff, and because I did a guided meditation with these guys, and the kid, the non-Navy one, he really got it and was amazed. And the Navy guy, not so much. He just went and drank his hooch on the other side of the house. So that right there, the dog and the 2 guys were a great kind of metaphor for now the light is being blocked by the house over here, so I can do that. So being totally in the sun and bleached out. And then I didn't hear any news until the day after Christmas, Saturday, when these people were supposed to show up, and they had bought a big, gigantic Jeep with big burly tires, and so they could come here because the rich guys are help. This kid makes money, but these people are a lot more affluent. And so anyway, they bought a house just to come up here. I mean, a Jeep, brand new, $30,000 Jeep with every kind of bell and whistle. And they didn't want to take it up and get it mussed up. So they rented a sedan, a Lexus, two-wheel, real drive, or front-wheel drive. I don't know, but a fancy sedan, which forget this, Anyway, so they would say, "Oh, we're coming up," and I said, you should tell them to park, on the county road and walk in, and maybe you can walk up and get them, and walk them back because it is about 3 or 4 miles, but that's nothing around here. I mean, I walk that, I walk about 5 miles a day. Today, I finished, getting rid of all the ice and snow on the road. So when I drive out in the next 2 days, I won't have to, because it's supposed to get warmer. Today it was almost 50. Tomorrow it's supposed to be 60. And they're saying New Year's Day could be 70. Now it's pretty obvious that there are what we would call earth changes, right? And back in 1973, when I came back from being in New Mexico and working at Los Alamos and Sandias and Kirkland Air Force Base, being involved in a couple of very strange experiments and bumping into Grandfather David, the truth keeper of the Hopi Nation. He was holding with his gang the Hopi prophecies, and they were just waiting for the white buffalo to drop, which it did in the 80s. Anyway, so I got back, and my buds, who were, still interesting, and the Vietnam War wasn't over, but Jimmy Carter was going to be president, and he was going to get rid of the draft and, let the kids come home who went to Canada. But anyway, things were a lot less strange. It was Jimmy Carter time, and in the UN, these guys, and my friend Billy Kluver he was the guy who got the Nobel Prize for discovering background radiation. When I say he did, he was with a crew that did, but he was part of the Rad Lab, and he was also part of the Council for Foreign Relations. He was their outreach guy, looking for guys like me. And when I was a kid, and my parents lived on Parkin Avenue, just down the street from the Council for Foreign Relations, it was right on the corner of 69th and Park, or Lexington, right near Hunter College. And the one door that you could get through was this place called Automation House. And back in 1967, walked in there, and there's Billy. He was just sitting there playing with something. And I said, "Hey, am I allowed in here?" "Of course, this place is for you." And we had he talked, and we talked, and I was all about Tesla, and I was all about, 14. And I worked for Grandpa Stahl by then, and he knew Grandpa Stahl because anyone into any kind of electrical high voltage anything, and that's radar, that's microwave, knew Grandpa Stahl. And also Captain Louie down at CTI, which is he was the guy who kind of invented everything video for he was a grandson of Mr. Sony and came to America and never left. And I used to and that was down on Chambers, right off of Chambers Street on Varick. And Captain Louie had more money than God. And I met Captain Louie before they built the World Trade Center, right where the World Trade Center was called Radio Row, where all these kind of warehouse things that were built in the between the 1790s and the 1890s, because right there, that was where all the commercial docks were, from the old days, right? And so they had all these warehouses for all the stuff coming off the boats. So all of these trees were covered in white. It was really beautiful. Anyway, so Captain Louis and Billy Kluver were my inroads to the United Nations, along with Madame Olga Kluver, who is a good friend of Billy's, and also a good friend of Grandpa Straws. I mean, all these people knew each other, and I got to know all these people because I knew them. And then their friends would introduce me to other friends. And so my circles was like a Venn diagram. And so when people go, how did you do all that stuff? How did you meet all those people? If I have any talent, is to be in the right place in the right time, just like me talking to you guys right now. So when I was exposed to the UN, and we started an NGO called Technologies, and part of our mission statement was to heal the world through technology, simple technology, stuff that you had in your closet. And like our first big success through UNICEF was one of the biggest problems in third world countries back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, was, and still is, potable water, right? And basically UV light will kill any organism. So we basically, and in those days, the sodas were delivered to Africa in these 2-liter clear plastic jugs with a cap, right? So we thought, okay, so Africa's awash with these 2-liter bottles. We saw some photos of mountains of these things. And, it wasn't like aluminum cans or steel or that people could recycle. That plastic wasn't really being recycled yet. So anyway, light bulb on the head. And we said, so if these people could take whatever water they have, even standing water, fill that jug, put it, put the thing on and put it in direct sunlight, the UV will kill everything, right? Have another jug with a little funnel and a t-shirt, and you pour the water from the one that's been in the UV for the last day into a new jug, clean jug, but now it's got, a filter, so all the gunk doesn't. You put that in the sunlight for a day and then do it again, and by the third bottle, you have potable water. That's it. No big high tech, no big anything, no. And one of the biggest problems was the babies were, they had big infant mortality due to diarrhea. So by getting this water to the average mom this way, because they all could get their hands on like 10 or 20 of these clear plastic things, and just do that, they would have potable, healthy water. And within 2 years, the infant mortality rate in the areas that UNICEF had gotten this out to the general public, infant mortality rate had dropped by 1 million children, right? And that was our first big success. That was like, whoa, that's amazing. You didn't really do anything except use your brain, get UNICEF to advertise it. And so that was good. And then the other thing we realized is that they were deforesting their land for firewood. And so we made a really kick-ass solar oven just with a cardboard box and aluminum foil. That's it. And it could cook anything. And the other thing we tried to get them to do is, if they had a car, they had a chicken, and you're going to cook that chicken, you wrap it up in aluminum really good, and you stick it up near the manifold. And when you drove your car all around, and then you came home, you take the chicken out of the manifold, and it would be all cooked. Things like that. And we kept doing stuff like that and being very successful and get a lot of great PR until the Hidden Hand didn't want those people to have that easy of a life. So they basically said, okay, you guys are great. You've proven yourself. So we want you to focus more on you're Mr. Tesla, you're Mr. This, you're Mr. That, my buddies of this NGO. And, we were against nuclear power and nuclear war. And we were kind of, all of us had been, like me, gone to Cooper Union, tried to stay out of the draft, got involved in very strange stuff that the government was doing. I was in the Southwest. Another friend was up in Alaska fooling around with HAARP, in the beginning of HAARP. And another friend was out in Brookhaven National Laboratory in Long Island and Project Montauk. Anyway, so they said, we want you to look at that stuff. And here is, we have a person who's, she is and the guy said, he's trying to find the right word for it. And he goes, she's going to be your handler, and we're going to bring you technologies. We have a laboratory for you to work in. And her name wasn't, what's the other cowgirl sharpshooter of early 20th century, late 19th? There was Annie Oakley, and then there was this girl. And that's what this girl that was like her code name. Not Annie Oakley, but the other one. And she always had a gun, and she always had buckskin clothes on, right? And she was buxom, and her buckskin skirts were always mid-thigh, and she was always like, but this girl, she was beautiful, brilliant, and scary, right? So she was our handler. And she handled us in more ways than one. And so she kept bringing us very strange technology that we would play with and figure out what it was. And our laboratory was in a apartment building, a very fancy schmancy apartment building across from Lincoln Center. It was a condo kind of place. And it had 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, big living room with, open kitchen over here. And that whole side facing west and Lincoln Center had a big veranda, right? So it's beautiful. It's rich person's condo, but it was our laboratory. And we turned one room into a clean room, one room into a Faraday cage, and another into our bench, where we kind of piddled around with stuff. And by this time, because I'm like conflating time periods, because when we started this thing, it was 74 or 5. And see, all these guys had technical jobs. Me, I was an artist. I was a activist. I was, an electrician. I was a photojournalist. I had, and a traveler. I was always going someplace, right? And but whenever I was there, every Thursday we would get together and have that. And that was one place. One of those bedrooms was nobody else stayed there because they all lived in Long Island and New Jersey. Me, I lived in New York. So that was that was one of the deals I made. I said, listen, okay, as long as we have this place, I want one of these rooms that's mine, one of the bathrooms is mine. And when I don't have a place to stay, I can stay here. And they said, fine, hey, that's cool. You can play with stuff. And anyway, so that's how that kind of rolled. And so in that period from about 74, 75 to about 88 really, was this period of, I was involved in that, right? And in all of that, all those things, artist, electrician, journalist, traveler, married, and I got married the first time in 77. Anyways, all of this stuff kind of was like a smorgasbord, And so the 2 young men who gave me the hospitality of this place for 4 days was for Christmas. And it was a great Christmas, really, really nice, right? And I was, they gave me a nice warm space. The rich kid did, and I gave them, all the things they didn't have, like they needed salt. I mean, if I didn't give them salt, they would have killed themselves, you know. Me, I would have just stayed in this house until it was time for me to live, and I would crawled up the hill and not going on the steps, right? And I brought them all. They had no real food. You know, they did not come with. They came with like 8 tons of toilet paper, but no food. And they didn't have any gasoline. They had 12 5-gallon gasoline things that they bought and was in their truck, but they didn't put any gas in it. So the tree that fell down, they had a nice steel, brand new chainsaw, and it had a little gas in it. It started up, and then it cut a few limbs, and then it ran out of gas. I mean, intent, you know, common sense. These were the things that I find missing, not just in these two guys, in pretty much the human race at this point. Everyone is so separated by the last, 15 years of digital devices and the internet, and just being separated. The Donald Trump 4 years just separated everyone. And if you don't think that this has been a scripted show, then you're not watching. You're not awake. This is all scripted. This is all being brought to us. And you thought 2020, kids, was crazy and wild? 21. So there's been this little virus, right? The 19 virus, that anyone who, I knew a lot of virologists, and they were all saying, hey, this, AIDS, SARS, MERS, Ebola. These are all things these are all the, viruses that. So this one, is not killing lots of people. I mean, this is pretty much a engineered biological weapon. Right. And if you go read the 1972 U.S. Army Manual on Biological Weapons, you will see it says the object of biological weapon isn't to kill a lot of people. It's to disrupt the social, economic fiber of your enemy. Right. And also to press them. Right. So what do you think has happened the last friggin' year? So, and if you go to Cliff Hyde, Clearly Thinking, I think is his YouTube channel, but Cliff Hyde, we did him, and look at what he put out in, everything I know about, biological warfare, I was reminded by Cliff, and he was a great teacher. And if you go watch his show from mid-January to really, he started off going, hey, something's going on in China. He started going on about it in October, November, December. And then once it started to move out of China, and not just that, but China going nuts about it, he basically said, and so he would draw these charts of exactly, and he put the dates and how many people would die. And it's unbelievable. If you go back and look at it, it's exactly what happened. So he says, well, kids, this is going to go on for 3 years, and each year is going to get worse. It's going to get more and more virulent. And he said that they already have, and he says it's a play. They have it all, worked out. So how could they make a vaccine, this quickly unless they knew what it was, right? And they had it engineered already. And again, remember, welcome aboard. This is Sensei Al Bob at Dreamy Dreamland. And don't believe a word I say. This is all a story. It's just a story. It's just a story. And you should go to my xratted.blogspot.com and look at Legend. I have Legend number 1 and maybe have Legend number 2. And I'm already up to Legend 12 or 18. But I haven't really, my internet and phone guru has, Penny, good to see you. Tons of stories. Yep, that's me. I'm a griot. That's what we do. We tell stories. And so Mr. Cliff Hyde basically goes on about what 19 is, right? And what it's going to do, right? Hey there, Penny. And so, go to xratted.blogspot.com, and that's my Griot Publishing. You will find lots of interesting stories there, and you'll find legend. And how I write, I'm very, James Joyce said, "I'll be proud to be remembered as a cut and paste man," and that's me. And so, I write every day, right? And I put it on this thing called the clipboard, right? And then I can take it off the clipboard and put it over here into a document and write it, right? And so I took a lot of stuff from my clipboard into legend. And so all of the stuff was kind of there, but I had to edit it. That's when I become a wordsmith, and I kind of paragraph by paragraph, I probably started legend. Well, I started years ago writing all the stuff on the clipboard, but picking it up and putting it into a document called Legend, I think the first one was, maybe 5 months ago. So I'm now to about a page. I have 300 pages from the clipboard on the document called Legend, right? And I have edited 140 pages, right? So now I have a new document, and it's like copy. I have like maybe 20, versions of this, and I'm almost at, and its name has, it's Legends. What's the word when you make a book full of lots of different stories? Anthology. Legends Anthology. That's going to be the name of this, because I've got all these stories, and they're all interconnected. And it's all about, and it flies between future. So I read, starting this, I going, what am I going to do with this? And back 5 months ago, I read Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol a lot. And it's a sci-fi story because, the past, present, and future time travel visits Scrooge in one night, right? And makes him the best guy, who ever knew Christmas, right? But he had to go through a lot of stuff. So that's basically the storyline. Also, Dante's Inferno is part of the storyline. And all of this Black Lives Matter / everyone wondering what gender they are, that's the heroine is a guy and a girl. Dante and Nicola, and Dante, right? And so, and the love is love's co-creation, but it's an artificial intelligence, right? And so there may be 40 different characters in this, and half of them are the same people, just in the past, present, and future of this storyline, right? And it jumps all over the place, but it's very well connected. And the two other main characters is God, known as Bob, and Satan, which is known as Monkey. And if you know anything about Buddhism, the animal world first made us, and there was panda. Well, first it was ant and turtle, then monkey, then snake, then and snake was more like a everything reptile, and panda. Panda is like the first mammal. So that Disney thing, if you want to know about all of that, that's it, right? So basically, God and Satan, if you read Job, which is my favorite book in the Bible, you see that God and Satan are buddies. You're drinking buddies, In actuality, they're lovers, right? So there's that. And a good chunk of this is, when I'm trying to make the connections between all of these different stories I have, I use scripture straight out of the Bible because the Bible is the best, especially the Old Testament is the best soap opera there ever was, right? Now, when I got here, the sun was right in my face and it was toasty. Now it's going behind the trees and it's getting nippy. And it's been nippy here. It's been in the 20s. When the sun is out, it's in the 50s. When the sun goes away, it's in the 20s. And the sun's going to go down. I mean, it won't set, but it's going down in the next, 10 to 20 minutes. So I got about 10 or 20 minutes left of this. So remember, go to X-Rated and you'll see Legend and you'll see the stuff that I'm cutting and pasting and moving around and wordsmithing. And I will, by Thor's hammer, I will get this on xratted.blogspot.com by the end of January, right? So my birthday, I'm I'm an Aquarian, so and my birthday is all of Aquarius, not any specific date, all of Aquarius. So because I really am the Aquarian of every, and so that means I'm also, Aquarian Capricorn and Aquarian Pisces. So anyway, I try to manifest the best of all there is, right? So that's me. So I will try. I keep saying I'm going to put this up there because I tried to put Legend 2 and all it did was zip back to the first thing I put up there because it doesn't want, for me to put it up there physically, what I have to do is like put my finger on copy. Well, it's 304 pages. So that would take me a day to just keep, because this thing goes real slow, even when it's hooked up. Anyway, but what it does do, like snap of the fingers, is connect to a link. So the first link was just the first one. The second one went back to the first one. I'm going to have to get somebody who really knows what they're doing to get, Legend, the most recent one up. So anyway, that's where we're at. If you want to, go to the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail and freestyle everything. Sup, buddy? Marilyn Young was the Irish crone story found in fascinating. Are you still in the same place? No. Well, that one, I first came to YouTube by John Birmingham's channel. And by that time, John Birmingham's channel was kind of, it was, you can only watch John, pluck hairs off his body and show you his new shorts and him working out with his weights and for so long, And so he bought the school from me, and I stayed there. The first time he threw me out, I had probably been there maybe 8 months, and I was helping him, get my stuff out of the way. I knew all the little foibles of the school, so I was helping him fix it up. And like I really am very good at taping and mudding, plaster and sheetrock. So anyway, I helped him, and as I would be telling him, and I cooked his meals. I probably cooked John over 1,500 really good meals, and I helped him stop smoking and other bad habits I helped him get out. The only one that I haven't really been able to get him out because he says he doesn't do it. I mean, it's pretty obvious that if you're smoking cigarettes, you can smell that. But his drinking coffee is like crack cocaine to him. He just really goes, he's a Libra, so he's, whoa, 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 so. Anyway, so I would be making him dinner or breakfast or lunch, and he would kind of put his phone while I was telling a story, right? And then those stories, like the crone story, took off, just went viral. And, then he realized, after the first one went above 170,000, he was making about $1,000 a month off of me, all the time telling me that I was costing him money. You're costing me money. I was, cooking him food. I was running his errands. He never had to go down. I was helping him fix his house. I was being his counselor, and I was costing him money. Anyway, it was okay, because I knew at some point he would, just crack and throw me out. So that was fine. I was kind of, kept moving the most important stuff out. Boy, did I have a lot of stuff. I had too much stuff. And he kept shooting videos of me. So he probably has a good 20 or so videos. But by that time, I went to my phone guy and said, so what is this YouTube thing? And so here, let me show you. And he said, what do you want to name it? I said, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. So that's been 2 years ago as of last September. I'm heading into my third year. I have more than 1,200 shows up there. So if you go to Martine, if you go to Dreamy Dreamland that you're on here, this channel, go to the channel itself, go look at all the other shows I've done. I mean, if you liked the Crone one, and I, tell the Crone one, a little more detailed, a little more what was going on, right? But this is all stream of consciousness. So someone says, can't you just put it into, because when I put a name, I just say, put whatever name up. And what I want you to do, see, every show I do is a shamanic ceremony, right? It's a frame. And so I want you to take your intent and just think of 3 numbers, and bingo, that's now 4 numbers, or get a dartboard or a set of dice and go watch that show. And, you don't have to watch the whole thing. If it enthralls you, watch it. Not go to the next, do the one right next to it. Okay. Throw another number. And I would suggest if you guys, out of the more than 1,000 of my shows, if any are really ones that talk to you, I give you total permission to go put it on a hard drive. Go put it on a thumb drive. Go put it on a CD-ROM. Because, kids, the internet is going away in the year of 2021. This little virus that got into, everyone's server, that's, it's going to be the 19 of the digital world for 2021 is going to make 2020 look like Mary Poppins, because virtually all the things that run our world, the thing that runs our electric system, the grid, all the power plants, we have 172, give or take, large nuclear power plants have been running for more than 10, 20, 30 years, are only designed to run no more than 12. And so they're like a teacup. Plus, they have figured no place to put the nuclear waste. And so they're in swimming pools. And that's what happened to Fukushima. They lost power. They couldn't keep all those pools with nuclear waste in it, they couldn't keep the water rushing over to cool it. So it got really, really hot to the point that it flashed the water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the explosion that happened in Fukushima wasn't a nuclear explosion. It was a chemical explosion of hydrogen and oxygen. So if you have an operating system of a nuclear power plant that was built in 1972, and the software for the plant was built in, designed in 1960, you think that's going to be hard to crack? I don't think so. So this little, digital virus is in everyone's everything. I mean, why do you think my phone is whack? Because all it is, I have a zillion apps. I didn't put any of them on there. I just have 3 that I use, and I try to take them off, and they just keep coming back on. So I would think that by March, when this thing is really, when the COVID thing is like going out of hand, and when they start to realize that their little inoculation, and they probably will get virtually everyone inoculated. And what'll be very interesting is that the inoculation will work pretty good for guys like me, right? Because how many years do I have left? Maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe Who knows? But it'll be good for us. But the poor young kids who get it. Now, I don't know anything, right? Don't believe a word I say. This is all just from my ability of insight to look at things, right? And I'm not right all the time. I'm right, give or take 70% of the time. I'm not a Virgo, you know, and I'm just seeing a lot of dots line up. When 9/11 happened, I kind of had a sense that was going to happen, and I have friends around here. There are a couple of about 20 miles from me on the other side of the lake. There are two, what do they call those things? Gated communities. And one is full of Navy guys, but I mean admirals and captains and pretty much guys who are either, captains of aircraft carriers or nuclear submarines or part of ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, right? It's been around since this, it's the oldest thing going on doing that. And they're way better than the CIA or anybody else, right? And so they're all the retired guys are over there. And I have a friend of mine who was in everything. He was in the Navy, he was in the Air Force, he was a Marine, you name it, he was in it, at least a major above. He was never a general, but he was a lot of colonels, right? And so he knows these guys, and he's still a pretty handy guy. And so he knows them all, and he fixes their stuff. And he introduced, you need an electrician now. This is the guy to do it for you. So I've known those guys. And on the other side of this peninsula from those guys are the Air Force-y guys. But they both kind of know. They're right across. They're just on a peninsula, and they're like on either side. And where they are, both of them, there's one way in, and the other way out is by a boat. So they have, their surveillance and their security, they think. Anyway, half of the UK currently on full lockdown again now. Marilyn, are you in the UK? Dreamyland, I will. Thank you. I live in. Yeah. Sounds like had a good deal. Yep. John, and see, John to me is my friend, and I never give up on a friend. Now, I always know what's going on. I always have 10 alternatives. So when John would go nuts and if he did not, I mean, I could, protect myself. Even if he were to have a weapon, I could still take care of myself. And I would know he was going to do it before he did it, so I wouldn't be there, right? So after the first time he threw me out, I just went downtown and stayed with some friends, had a good time. And so John Birmingham has kicked me out of the school 32 times. He bought the place in 2015, middle of September 2015. And from 2015 until Donnie got sworn in, or no, he won. I stayed there, and I would leave periodically to move stuff from the school and into undisclosed locations of security, and I started working on realizing that I probably would end up living in the deep green. So I was getting that together. But I pretty much, those winters of 15 and a good chunk of 16 and a good chunk of 17 and a little bit of 18. 18 in September, it was last time I was physically there for any period of time. From the 18th of September 2018, I haven't been there. Now, I've been other places, and I've been here, and I've been at the deep green, not here, but at the deep green, which I'm in the forest. I'm about 2 miles from the deep green. And that's why I have to, finish this up relatively soon because I have to walk 2 miles back. So, and it's 4:17, give or take, Eastern Standard Time. So everyone, go to my the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, which is where you can talk to me personally. I love the chat. And I love it when we get into a really good chat and talk about stuff. But a lot of you like talking to me personally and tell me your woes and what should I do? Sensei Bob, and I tell you a story and give you a little advice, and I'm good at that. Plus, anyone who wants to be generous enough to support my survival, you on the Due to Wait 42 at Gmail is my PayPal account, and you can put something on there. And a number of you have, so I know it works, and I know it's relatively easy. It's there, and I thank you for all the ones who have donated. I really do. So it should be a relatively easy thing, and whatever you can afford is duly appreciated. So anyway, so that's it. That was Smorgasborg here, and it's so at 1:11:11, which is in about a minute from now because it's now 1:10:55. I'm gonna say goodnight, Gracie, and I'll try and get back to you this weekend. Or maybe Christmas Day. Here it is, Tuesday. That's 2 or 3 days away. Okay, there we go. I love you guys. Remember to breathe.